And that's the rest of the story.
Oh, yes. Nice.
I do not believe that's how you stole the Declaration of Independence.
Only time will tell if it's the truth.
I know. I just put a flag over it and carried it right out, and it was fine. It was fine. I didn't say which flag, but I just put a flag over it. I mean, it's, hi, everybody.
Okay, you'll get pardoned.
I'll get pardoned.
No, don't go there.
We are not going there. This is not happening. Okay,
I cannot remain a neutral party any longer.
That's right. That's
I think we only have
I'm triggered. I think we have Brian. I'm triggered.
We have a set amount of political cards, and that just cost us one. Like it just draws from the hand, and you go. Yeah. It's like okay,
negative 10 points for mentioning it. Yep. That's it. Hi everybody. We are live, right? So
we are now live. Yes.
You know, it's really good to see everybody in 2025. This is my first time actually on. I call it Restream, but streaming with everybody in 2025. So, yeah, I hope everybody had a fabulous holiday break and all that. I know I'm saying that late in January now, but I'm not ready for the year to begin yet. So, and it's already started.
I almost forgot something.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got people here. Shecky's here. He's above me in the Brady Bunch tiles. Alex. Yep. So, now, hang on. I have to point that way over there. And then Derek. My good mate Derek is there. And I keep pointing that direction as Mary Ellen. Wave, Mary Ellen. So, and then Hi. Ryan is down there. And, forgot. Wait, I got to point this way. Corey is all the way up there in the corner. Of course, it probably doesn't look like that to everybody else. They're like,
no, it does.
Talking about,
it's
John?
What you see is what you get.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? That's fantastic.
We're kind of waiting on John before we blow this popsicle stand wide open.
Yeah.
But we'll see if he shows up. As an audience member, you're probably wondering how it feels to be a host. And this is basically it. We just wait around. If John Strand shows up, then we throw him into the rants. If not,
we just go
each other into the rants.
Yeah, we just go. Well, Brian was just saying I survived Australia. The West Island, as our friend Brian likes to call it. Yes, I did go around the world and back again. I got to see an enormous amount of family. There were 46 people at my brother's Christmas hosted celebration, and they were all family. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
You're fake Australian now. They probably judge you for not knowing how to do whatever Australians do.
They do. I get judged a lot for not being Australian enough. Oh, look, there's John. What great
what I want to know is, Joff, how could you run America so poorly? Because we know that you're the one who's doing it. It's obviously
John, your mic's not working. Damn it, yeah.
That's a swear jar. I'm counting that.
That's 10 points into the swear jar.
I know what he said. Everyone watching, if you know what
public,
he said.
We're good.
That's right.
Oh, no, it's public.
It's public.
Yeah, but there was no audio. If it was podcast, we'd be fine.
That's true. Can the transcript read lips yet? Let's hope not.
Yeah.
I don't think it can. I think it's a pass.
So what's happening in the world of hacking today, guys? Anything new in AI?
No, nothing's new. Well, John, this is going to be fun to throw you into this rant. I don't want to, but I want you to remember, like, I want to see the look on your face when I say export grade ciphers. Oh my God. Okay. That's a preview. That's a preview of what John's going to be doing in 10 minutes when we start talking about AI chips and things.
Oh my God.
Is that like military grade hardware?
It's like that, but dumber.
Just so you know, I'm coming in real cold. I just got done teaching, so I don't know the news stories.
That's okay.
My comfort blanket's right here. I'll give it to you, John.
I'm really happy that you and Derek are on, Joff, because we're going to need some help with the AI models, and I hope you guys have done at least some research on this.
I have a DeepSeek R1 running locally on my MacBook. Does that count?
Yeah. What you want to do is you want to use Hamseek R1. That's
I think that makes you an expert at that.
I mean,
oh crap! Yeah. There goes my camera. Oh no! I owe the swear jar now.
So wait, Derek, how are you running that with export restricted, extremely limited hardware?
Military grade encryption.
The politicians are trying to keep that out of your hands. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's go live.
We are.
We are
Said-
live.
Already are.
Did we already
We've
do the
been
finger and
live.
everything?
Do you
But
mean
we didn't
roll
do the
finger?
intro. We
Let's
can
do
roll the intro.
Do the intro.
All right.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Black Hills Information Security, talking about news. My name is John Strand, and I don't know what we're covering today because I'm teaching a pay what you can intro to security class, and the only thing I know is like if you had Nvidia stock, it's probably a bad day for you. So could we bring up the news stories? Let's start right there. Does anybody want to jump into this? Corey, do you want to
Yeah.
set
So the
this
first,
off?
let's hit the reason why we're all here, which is for the hottest, freshest AI
Hot
news.
goss.
Hot
This
AI
hot AI goss will be dead in like 2 weeks because AI moves
Oh.
very quickly. But basically, there's a Chinese LLM called DeepSeek R1, which sounds like a submarine that you would go on and then get killed if you're a billionaire. But let's not go there.
Only
Basically, this is a new LLM, and the kind of like cool thing about it, I mean, we'll get into Derek and Joff from a technical perspective, but the political thing about it is the U.S. government was like, you guys can't have the fastest AI chips to develop your LLMs, and then this Chinese company was like, well, we don't need that. So they basically published an LLM that competes with OpenAI's ChatGPT o1, which is like a reasoning model. So basically, this went public today. It's been all kinds of active.
So
and,
it did go public
pretty
today, though.
interesting.
It's been out
Wait,
for a couple days.
But wait,
Right.
Yeah.
There's more to this model than so. So just from what I know, and I want to bring Ralph and Derek.
I've
and
used it a
Josh into
bunch. It's interesting.
So this model, like, who cares? New models are released all the time. You have lots of open source models, all of that. However, this one in the why do I care matrix jumps up because the amount of energy and computational power required to actually make it hum and do AI things is much, much, much less. Okay.
So
Yes.
China says.
So China says we don't
Yes.
know yet, right?
Well,
enough.
and so it's now running on Derek's laptop. So now
Yes.
he's compromised
That's gonna
himself.
be
He's
the
joined.
definitive test.
He's joined the botnet. So Derek, how's it hanging? How's it feel? Are you learning Chinese yet?
Not yet, no. But I imagine it could help me with that if it wanted to. So yeah, so I am running it. I'm running essentially a version of it. So it's the 7 billion parameter model. It's the way I understand this model to be. It's essentially fine-tuned using their secret sauce based off of a llama base model. So it's not the big DeepSeek. So I think it was at 675 billion parameters is the release one.
I think it's like over 100 gigs of RAM or something like that.
Yeah,
so like
so-
this gets into the RAM problem, by the way, for anyone.
Yes. And by the way, the whole thing we're talking about with the whole like restricted hardware, they didn't restrict the amount of memory the chips can have, only the speed, right? So it's actually kind of a pointless restriction.
I want
Which is-
to build that up so people know once again, like, kind of why this can be a big freaking deal, right? So if you can do it with less power, you can do it with fewer GPUs, and you can kick all these things out. That effectively kicks the entire IT stock market, NASDAQ, in the nuts hard.
Yeah.
Because the entire stock growth that we've had in the IT infrastructure is pretty much fueled by Nvidia, because a lot of, well, an ARM too, but when you're looking at what is required for these AI models to properly render, it's the same thing you need for password cracking rigs. It's the same thing that you need for video game processing, lots and lots of simple mathematical algorithms running very, very fast and massive parallelism with floating point arithmetic. You need lots of CPUs to do that. You need lots of power to do that. So if you all of a sudden now have a model that you don't need a monster crazy supercomputer to make it run, it's less power, fewer GPU chips, which means people are buying fewer Nvidia GPUs, which I'm going to come back to here in a second. And it also means that AI is now much more accessible for companies like the size of BHIS to basically compete with AI models that previously very large cloud computing companies like Microsoft, like Amazon, like Google had kind of cornered, because they had the capability of putting that stuff in the cloud and running it for large corporations. This potentially changes a lot of financial dynamics, a lot of stock market futures. Like, what's the value of Nvidia? Who knows? What's the value of cloud computing platforms like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, when all of a sudden now maybe you don't need to be running all of this stuff in Azure? Like, maybe it's going to be able to run it much easier here in your own environment on your own hardware behind your firewall than it is kicking it up in the cloud. Now, I want to pause because I've been out of it for 5 hours now for my class. And Ralph, did I sum that up? Ralph, Joff, Derek, did I sum that up properly about why this is a big effing deal?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to, you did. I'd like to jump in there and say a couple of things. One, Nvidia took a 17% hit on the stock market today. But you've got to put that in a little bit perspective on the financials. Nvidia is trading at a 56 times forward price.
Oh yeah, they're insanely overpriced.
So they're insanely inflated right now. So that may not be as big a deal as the technical stuff that John was talking about. And let me speak to that briefly. If you look at Llama 3, for example, and you look at trying to do what's called supervised fine-tuned training on one of these models.
Could you describe to people what Llama is? Because there's a whole bunch of people that are confused what Winamp has to do about that.
Oh yeah, Winamp. It really kicks the llama's ass.
Yeah, let me
swear jar.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, 10 demerit points in the swear jar again. Is that going to cost me real money, or is it just going to cost me GP?
Real money. We'll bill you.
I don't
know.
Send us your
I got
llamas.
you covered. Let's try to keep it under control.
Anyway, let's back out a minute and just say a couple of things. There's a open source community that's been running for some time. It's called Hugging Face, and there's a lot of openly published large language models on Hugging Face. And actually, this has been a concern of mine for some time, because I don't think the AI community has been as conscious about reining things in a little bit than they should be, because this is a significantly transformative technology, right? But putting that aside for a minute, there is an enormous community of researchers that have tapped into these models that are published openly on Hugging Face and other places to take those models and adjust their weights for their own purposes. And that's the process of fine-tuning. Meta publishes one. It's called Llama. Llama 3 is their latest generation. Google publishes one. There's a number of others, Mistral. And I can't name them all off the top of my head, but there's a number of models out there, right? To build these large language models that are openly published is an enormous amount of compute power, as we currently understand it, with the algorithms that most of the U.S. or Western related scientists have invented, right? And when I say an enormous amount of compute power, these guys are building data clusters of compute that is so large that they're in the process of relocating them, closer to power generation facilities, because they're actually maxing out the ability of the power grid. So there's a couple of things at play here. One, U.S. for a while has tried to deny China the chips in order to build models. That seems to be something that they walked around with their own manufacturing process. But the other thing is, and this has been interesting to me, is the United States it has been quickly approaching the crossover point where it cannot generate enough electricity to supply the model building process that's actually going on. China has a massive amount more electricity that they can produce. So they had us beat on the infrastructure already.
Let's stop. They're actually scrambling as fast as they can to get as many Gen 4 nuclear power plants up and running as quickly as they possibly can.
So they're getting a competitive advantage in energy infrastructure, and then they turn around and do this, say, oh, yeah, by the way, we're publishing a model that is way more energy efficient in terms of being able to train, and one has to assume being able to use for inference, which is the process of actually querying the model on a day-to-day basis with prompts and all the things that we do with large language models. But the corollary to that is you can fine-tune that model with a lot less resource as well. And that's a really big deal, because to take one of these very large models and fine tune it for a task specific goal, or what's called a domain knowledge focus, takes a GPU resource of some sort, and to put it in an individual hands.
Kind of like refactoring the whole model, or a good percentage of it.
Yeah, it's refactoring a portion of the model. That is what it is. It's adjusting the weights of a subset of the model and leaving the other weights frozen. And it's a really interesting thing to do, because you're essentially taking the college student, let's call the model a college student, and you're taking them to school and training them in a specific domain to turn them into a professional in that domain, right? If you like, right? That's the way I like to think of it, because these things are digital brains. Okay?
Yeah. The other thing too about this recent model, right, is that we're getting into the next phase of AI. I've been listening to a lot of stuff about all the different models and all the things. But so at first we were just throwing power at it. We're like, more GPUs, and we were getting better results. We're getting these bigger models, and that was GP4 and GP4o. And then when we got to O1, we moved to a reasoning model, which is what this new DeepStack model is doing as well. And what this is doing is it's actually pumping out a bunch of answers from the model, and then looking at all of those answers and picking out the best ones based off of other kinds of inputs, right? And this reasoning model is how we're moving to the next step of these AI models. And the wildest part about all of this is that this is happening so fast. We're not talking about over the last, 5, we're talking like in the last 6 months, it went from no reasoning to reasoning models. Like, we're pushing it so quickly to the next thing. Can
I jump in with a couple more things about DeepSeek and kind of like why this might be important? The first thing I also want to talk about is the chips, right? There are people in the political spectrum that are saying it must be impossible for them to have done DeepSeek without having access to export controlled hardware and software algorithms. And there are people that are like, well, this is just espionage on a grand scale. What is your take on that? Because that seems like absolute BS to me. Let's say that they did somehow get Nvidia chips. It doesn't mean that this.
Well, they can buy Nvidia chips. They're just limited in performance in some ways.
Well, okay, but they can't buy Nvidia chips. They're literally like sold out. Like, Elon was dying for these chips. They were like doing everything. Like,
my point is, from a legal perspective,
my point is, there's people in the political spectrum that are saying China broke the rules by gaining access to stuff that we were trying to stop them.
That's dumb. It's just like the export grade ciphers thing.
That feels dumb to me.
Yeah. It's what I alluded to earlier. The AI data scientist community have been openly, publicly publishing what they've been doing for some time. And so the chip and the hardware side of it is a different question than the software and the algorithm side of it. The software and algorithm side of it and the models themselves have been available. They're there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, also, we don't even know what it was trained on, and it doesn't really matter. They could just buy AWS credits in the US. Like, it's not. There's it doesn't. It's totally a political thing to say, oh, we gave them export restricted chips, so they won't be able to compete with OpenAI. That's like us saying, like, well, we're not shipping any wheat to China, so they're all out of bread. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's not how it works.
The wildest part is they spent all this money and they gave it MIT open source.
Right. I mean, I can run the thing today, right? So
I guess I would say,
you can't do that with OpenAI's model.
Well, no. If it was supposed to be for espionage, or if it was like threat actor China, why would they open source it? They would just keep it internal to China.
And here's my theory on that. And hey, let's get political. If you're looking at China, their main goal is disrupting the United States hegemony in the global order, right?
Yep.
And they've said that. I mean, that's in their news. That's not anything that's classified. They've had a bit of a bug up their ass since, the Boxer Rebellion, justifiably so, for a lot of things that happened in China. And when you're looking at that kind of history, you're looking at what's going on, what better way to kind of destroy that kind of pole position the United States has in technology than throwing it in an open source kick-ass AI model over the fence that completely cuts against ChatGPT and OpenAI, that completely cuts against Nvidia, that completely cuts against Microsoft, that completely cuts against a number of these IT companies that are US based companies, and you basically threw a free and open source hand grenade into the works on this.
Yeah.
Damn
Okay.
right. That's
fair, but
I predicted this 6 months ago. Actually, more than that. I wrote every senator I know. I said, you guys better wake up, because what's coming is going to hurt.
Well, but here's the counter argument to this. Here's the counter argument. Okay, so here's the problem, and they've already realized what the problem is. So Deep Tech, or what is it called? DeepSeek. They have a chat platform similar to ChatGPT. And guess what? Signups are limited because everyone's signing up and it's crapping all over their hardware. Like just because it's efficient doesn't mean they can answer every question about what if you put pizza glue inside of cheese, or what if you put glue on pizza, and what if you generate this? Like there's still hardware limitations to this. Just because it's more efficient doesn't mean, like, basically the counter argument is they still don't have the infrastructure to really support this at scale, and that's still a requirement. And it's like,
so that's the
really
interesting
different.
That's the interesting thing about these new models as their way of like progressing AI, right? Is that these reasoning models, they actually require more compute now, because they have to go through and go through all of these options and pick them back, as opposed to like the pre-trained model that just spit out what it knew and it didn't. And so that's, and the more reasoning that they've been doing research, the more reasoning that they apply, the better answers they're getting. And you can see how this is starting to move from the training requirement of CPU to the reasoning side of CPU. So like both are going to be happening, right? The GPU.
Totally.
So that's why, it's putting such a strain on this. But you know what? Wait till next month when ChatGPT drops 03 and it's like, it's that fast, guys. I swear to God, it is that fast. I wish it was like 1 year, but it's going to be like 2 months.
So one question I have for Derek and Joff, is this the first like reasoning model that I can self-host with reasonable hardware? Or has that existed before?
That's the first one.
It's the first reasoning, yeah.
Okay, so that's notable. It affects like people who self-host or people who like nerds. It affects nerds.
My final point that I didn't get to making is getting the technology in the hands of individuals where the individuals can actually have effective training and manipulation of these models has been that last mile and that last little step. And that's why this is very significant, because, I don't have teraflops of compute cluster in my office. I wish I did, but I don't.
It's just gigaflops, not teraflops.
Gigas.
What kind of flip-flops are those?
Flip-flops.
So that's the consumerization is kind of, or the democratization, if you like.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's the question I want to ask to everybody now, right? And I really want to go, because Ralph was saying some things that I think are really important. Everyone's saying this is a Sputnik moment. And I don't know how much of that is true, but I'm going to throw this out there. Isn't this shit inevitable? And what I mean by that is, as you're having these AI models improve, now you're using AI models to improve the AI models. This idea of like open source, this idea of these models not being in the hands of super, super, super large tech giants and being more out in the open, self-hosted and those types of things. We're like, Ralph, you were saying, like within the past few months, things got real and they changed real fast.
Yeah, really fast.
And this level of disruption, this isn't the end of it. Like I was reading some articles that were talking about like these types of improvement were theorized by university students and all these things. And for people that are in the middle of this isn't a huge surprise. It's a surprise that it's China and they just dropped it. DeepSeek's like, oh, open source, here you go, have fun. That is a bit weird. But from what I'm hearing, like what happened like in the past couple of days was something that a lot of AI scientists had been predicting for a while now, that it's just a matter of time before these models get distributed more and they get more efficient and they get better, because that's just the general downward pressure that is in all technology stacks. Get cheaper, get more efficient, get more power efficient. Is that correct or wrong?
So Mark Zuckerberg actually said that's why Meta released Llama, was to put it more in the hands of not just the tech elites, right? So, and I think that if anyone's read the situational awareness AI papers, this is a good example of unhobbling, right? Like somebody creative came up with a way to do something, and it just, you know, they happen to be in a different country. I don't think that, it doesn't seem like to me that it's any more, you know, that they stole it or something like that. It seems like they just came up with something creative.
So, Derek, I have a question here from Kip. I want you guys to answer. The fact that the AI boom was so highly funded by venture capital is the root to the problems we have had with it. So, what if we stole the training data? What if the number is going up? And kind of going off of Kip's question, all of a sudden now all these people have been sinking all of this money into these AI models and VC funding, like ridiculous amounts of money has been dumped into the space. And now it's like, hey, everybody, here's a bunch of open source crap that's better than anything else you have. Have fun.
Well,
what happens to that funding money?
So, I mean, I think we're still going to spend $500 billion on, was it Stargate? I don't know why they
that's the
Stargate.
That's the next article.
Yes. Oh wow, what a apropos way to spend more money.
Yeah. So it's almost like I prepared a little bit or something.
Yeah, this is way different, and I'll tell you why it's way different. We've had technology leaps in the past that are potentially scary, but this is a broadly, generally applicable, massive advance. This is a transformative inflection.
Sure. But we also,
I don't think it. Well,
I mean, our companies and our researchers might come up with something that's almost like gonna, you know, that like what was Ralph was saying, like O3, the next reasoning model from OpenAI or Anthropic or someone.
O3 is actually in the works. They've already pretty much announced and shown they have shown the data on the O3 model, and that comes to them pushing the reasoning models even further, right? I think the bigger thing to even step back from this, from a transformative, so it's really interesting. It's almost like a grenade. I think that's the best way to describe it. What China did with the DeepSeek R1 model. Right? They threw this thing in the pitch, and everyone else is also, you know, working so hard to bring all these models in, and it is moving so fast. That's the stuff that blows me away more than that China threw in this grenade, right? That's kind of like, I'm in shock already, and then there's a grenade on the ground because China's jumping in, and everyone thought they were way behind. Yeah, but it's moving so fast.
And kicking with that goes back to the investment, and this is going to get Stargate that I think Corey wants to get to here in a second. Yep. All this, like, how in the hell would you invest in this right now? Like, if you're looking at this space and you have China throwing these hand grenades as open source, just like out there, right? And it's growing and it's changing so fast. Like a lot of the VC private equity, if they're looking at timeframes and they're investing in something, they're usually looking at like a 6 month to a year to 2 year, like investment horizon to develop the technology and get it rolling. All of a sudden the game has been changed dramatically. You could sink billions into something. Like there are companies that have billions of dollars in revenue, or not revenue, billions of dollars in investment, two different things, boys and girls,
valuation,
that are now completely effed because of this.
Okay. So here's my take on all this, and to kind of inform where I'm coming from on this. I have a few friends who work at Intel making rocks think, making semiconductors. And interestingly enough, in that industry, they don't really file for patents, or really their trade secrets are just how they do.
It's public and you're screwed. You wouldn't.
Well, it's not even that. It's more just, if you show me a picture of a transistor, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to make that. Like they've evolved so far beyond the concept of what you can put in a patent that just their procedures are trade secrets, but they're not patenting them. They're just moving as fast as they can. And similar to AI, things move so fast, by the time you were to patent something, it's already obsolete. Second that the paper's published, that the patent's been filed, it's already obsolete. AI's in the same boat. They're just publishing this stuff as ads, basically, because it's already obsolete by the time it's published, because someone's training 03, 04, 05. Like, it's already behind.
Well, to answer John's question of why would someone invest in it? Well, I mean, now we can take, like, I just went and looked, there's an academic paper on like how they did what they did, right? And so our researchers can take that and then scale it up, and now we have a better one.
Got more GPUs.
Yes, so, and that's the other thing. It's not about what you can do on a scientific level. It's about how you can make it into revenue, right? It's about like ChatGPT is valuable, or Copilot is valuable, not because of how sick their parameters are and how good their weights are or whatever. It's useful because the secret sauce, the trade secrets, whatever they put on top of it, make it so it doesn't tell you to put glue in your pizza sauce, right? It make it like that element of it how, and also host the infrastructure, right? That's a big part of it. Like,
And
you know,
why do we think that this affected the price of Bitcoin? I mean, because the article that I read said, yeah, I mean, I get the nosedive with Nvidia, I get that Google stock was down, but you would think that the price of Bitcoin would go higher, right? Because it's going to be, you can make more of it quicker, right?
I don't think that you can necessarily make more Bitcoin quicker with AI models, just because of the way that the the NP hard problem is established. It's basically brute forcing. So I don't think that AI is going to make those types of problems happen faster, right? Because it's still a brute forcing algorithm that has to be done. For that, you would generally look at more like quantum computing, but that's a whole nother conversation, which is going to happen. Like that's right around the effing corner there.
I've got another article on that. We will bring it up later. But...
Yeah, we'll bring it up later. Here we go. But AI does help build those types of quantum computers and can help with all of that. So why did it cause a hit against crypto? As near as I can tell, and I'm just guessing, a lot of the same people that are investing in a lot of these cutting edge technologies, they look at them without understanding what it is. They're just investing and they're pulling back and they're trying to go to a safer position. Anytime you get into any type of like, let's say, instability in markets, you're going to move to gold. You're going to move to commodities. You're going to move to real estate. And I think what you're seeing is a large number of people that are pulling their stuff out of crypto because they tie it, like crypto and AI are two new tech. It must be the same thing.
They must be the same thing. They were totally built.
Their
around
AI investor bot thought it was
commodities.
connected.
And so that's my theory on that. I that's my guess.
I don't think they're connected at all.
Talking to family members that have been investing in Nvidia, a lot of the people that are investing in Nvidia and all these different AI models, they're also heavily in crypto. And today they're spooked. And they're trying to pull back at both of them because I don't think that they know the difference between it. That's my guess.
I would just offer this guidance. I don't call it investing. I call it speculating.
Oh, agreed.
Oh yeah, no, this, yeah. I mean, so
especially
let's talk about
Nvidia's
the Stargate
price
thing. Let's talk about the Stargate thing. So this
All
is
right.
kind of a. I mean, we're getting close to politics. We also have a politics jar that costs $15 to enter. So just keep that in mind. Just kidding. But so let's talk about the Stargate thing. Basically, this is a political thing. It's a little bit of a beef between Elon Musk and Sam Altman, which is just stupid and
so fun.
classic. But basically, people are putting up money. So I think it's based in SoftBank, but there's other capital partners, Oracle,
$500 billion.
Yeah, they're basically 500 billion is like the viral number. And of course they're already just like tweeting at each other being like, you don't have the money. Yeah, I do. Like,
no, you don't.
So, yeah, I do. I have 10 billion.
Show me in a room all that money.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I don't know exactly what it means, but essentially the government is working a partnership or supporting a partnership to collect capital to invest in data centers is basically the best I can understand. Is that right, Derek and Joff? Like, is that basically what they're going to do? Build like, give us those Nvidia A100s are
they
so
already
expensive.
have the data center built, by the way. There already is a data center. They're not,
but they don't have any A100s. They just have open shelves. And to buy the A100s, they need $500 billion. It's like if you go to your boss, hey John, I need some GPUs, and he's like, how much is it going to cost? And you're like, 500 billion, and they're like, oh, that's fine.
By the way, just for context,
by the way, Joff, Derek, no ideas, guys. Like, since
I think we tried that, and my answer was, John, you don't have enough money.
You know, things are getting real at the Strand household when you try to get approval for something, and I say approved. And then 15 minutes later, Erica comes back and says, hold on, we need to talk about this.
That's not the first time.
Dinner conversations happening.
So just to put
you just hear Erica yelling from another room, John, no!
So just to put $500 billion into quick context, that's more money than we spent on all of the interstate systems with adjusted for inflation by a lot.
Yeah, actually. We should probably rethink that if we're being honest.
Last year there was speculation of the race to the first $1 trillion cluster, and I think that the thought was that it'd take a couple of years, and so we're halfway there, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
So
the real thing that kind of interested me about this is that we keep expanding. We're like, wow, just throw more money in the pit, and then we could just build something faster and better. And the wild part is, every time they do build the next bigger model, model, it is faster and better in very large, meaningful ways. It's kind of like they haven't found the end where if they put more money in it, it doesn't result in better models. Does that make sense? And it's wild, and that's why it's happening. I guess that's what I see is why they're like 500 billion. Then I mean, come on, it keeps working, and we just keep.
Come on, we got this data center ready to go.
I think what just happened though, like if I was investing in this space, I would get out of data centers, I would get out of trying to build models, and I would get into services around it.
Yep.
If we're looking at what happened today, this is me being selfish. As soon as it hit, I'm like, if people can run really efficient self-hosted models and they can do it on the commodity hardware, all of a sudden now we're looking at way more AI implementations out there. And that's really good for a pen testing firm that does services, right? Because it's no longer like, well, you're going to run this in OpenAI, you're going to run this in Microsoft, you're going to run this in Google, you're going to run this in Amazon with their infrastructure, where it's cookie cutter. It's now Wild West for this. And people are going to implement it in a bunch of wild, crazy, and beautiful ways. And that's great for the services industry.
Yeah. They were already doing that wild and crazy stuff, by the way.
What's that?
We're going to still see.
Companies were already doing the wild and crazy stuff.
It's going to get wilder and crazier.
Yeah, wilder and crazier.
I just want to put it into concept too. So the full R1 model, right, takes 16 A100s to run that locally, right? And so because that's 130 or it's like 1.3 terabytes.
Can you break down what an A100 is, please? Because we have a lot of people.
A100 is God's GPU.
Yeah, if the CEO of Nvidia came down from the mountains like Jesus and brought something in his hands, this is what would be in the hand, okay?
Well, the H100 is a little better, but the A100 is a cost-effective inference GPU that costs about $8,000.
Yeah, it's basically a very expensive. Yeah, the H100 is the even more expensive version. Someone linked it in Discord. Right now on Amazon, it costs $22,000.
Yeah, my point was
one of them is $8,000.
Yeah,
one of them is. Yeah, one of them is 8,000.
That's honestly, John, that's like the starter model right now. So like it's gotten nuts.
So you need 16 of those, Ralph, to get this inference.
Which is run the full model. For almost any corporation, guys. Like
No, I know. I guess I was just saying that there's also smaller models that you can run on more commodity stuff. But to Derek's point and to Joff's point, you can train these models for your really specific use case. And a lot of times you don't need the full 671 billion parameters to make the same kind of success, right?
No, I do.
I
do. I don't think you understand. I've submitted another expense request for another H100. No,
but if we're looking at this, like if you guys came up with a business need, right? And you said we need 16 of these things. Unfortunately, I trust you guys too much. I'm saying that's definitely attainable for Black Hills Information Security,
right?
As a small to medium-sized tech business, and that's why I feel like this is just like Ralph said, it's a grenade going off, right? So now everybody is like, why are we going to be running this in Amazon? Like we can literally just spin this up locally, save tons of money.
There's also some other websites out there right now that aggregate all of them. I've been using them recently. It's like Open Router is one of them. And what you can do is you can actually ask the same question to all the different models at once. And the point here is that you can get the direct API price. So there's a really competitive market now for making requests to these more advanced AI models at a really low tokenization rate, right? So that you can get this to work for you really cheap. So you don't even need to build these systems, right? You can build the cost of asking all of these questions into your price. So.
Yeah. I mean, basically, like it's classic. It's an industry that's evolving so quickly. The question is basically, is someone going to trip? Everyone's sprinting. OpenAI is sprinting. Grok or whatever. Elon's.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's just sprinting. No one knows where they're sprinting. They're running. Elon's sprinting, looking left and being like, Sam Altman, are you sprinting in the same direction as me? And if one of them trips, it's over. And then one of them takes over as the winner. But right now it's like, who can dump the most money into H100s and hope that leads to an outcome on the stock market?
But what's the outcome? But the outcome is like actual AGI, which, by the way, we've improved so much. They're already talking about changing the models that they have built to test whether it's AGI. They're like, we got to move the freaking field goal because you guys are getting too close.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I got you, but I don't know what the goal is. Derek, Joff, what is the goal? Is it AGI? Is it just like?
Well, you've got to put it in the broader societal
No,
context,
ASI.
right? Everybody's forgetting that this is massively transformative because biotech and quantum computing are coming along with it, and artificial intelligence is researching itself to improve itself.
Improving itself.
And so we're reaching this point of exponential inflection where we won't be able to stop. This is actually going to transform everything. I mean, we don't even as humans are not even capable of understanding how much this is going to transform the world. It's out of the bag, right?
And that's why I come back to like this and what's happened. Like, man, I would hate to be investing money in this space right now because it's entirely possible that you could sink billions of dollars into something that's completely wiped out and irrelevant in the middle of you investing billions of dollars.
Well, but John, that's the whole point of the stock market, my friend. That's the whole point. That's why it exists. The stock market exists for one purpose, to raise capital.
And get people to invest in you. And boy, that sounds a lot like VC funding and Series A and Series B. It's not about
they love
product.
it. How can you give me 100x return, John? Just show me. Just show me.
What you're going to want to do is approve this Amazon purchase of another H100. No, I mean,
the way you're going to get your 100x return is to look at the actual services that are researched as a result of the technology, not the technology itself.
Yep.
So a good example is biomedical device miniaturization, right? If AI researches that and produces a device that's extremely popular, and will sell wildly over the next 2 years, then you can get your speculation bucks out of that, but not out of AI itself.
Did you see that article about AI creating RF chips?
Yeah.
Where they get it's getting more and more efficient for power. It's getting more and more better as far as range and all these things. And when humans are looking at the chips and what it's doing, they're like, we have no idea why this works. Like, why is this technology that's inside of this RF, like one of them had like this weird spirally thing. And they're like, we don't even know if that's used, but like,
so that's actually the real point.
They're like,
that's the real point. We are going to get to the point where we don't know what's being created and how it works. Is that comforting?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Job, that's already been true, dude. You don't know how half the stuff the shoulders we're standing on are so high, no one's been able to see the ground for 25 at least years.
But what Job is saying is those shoulders are going to be even one-upped on the shoulders that you thought were the highest. Like, we're going to be like, the people who are the experts are going to be confused, I think.
I guess. But it's just another bubble. This is the same thing the internet was doing in the 1990s.
Not a bubble.
It's the same thing.
It is.
No,
I disagree.
I disagree. I think it is a bubble. Not from the perspective, like whenever you're thinking bubble, a lot of people are like, it's fake. Like the housing market was a bubble because that value was fake. They were looking at AI as like a bubble because, well, it's fake. I agree that this technology has a lot of room to grow, but I look at it from an investment speculation perspective. It is a bubble. Like,
financially, it's a bubble.
Yeah, financially, it's a bubble. But if you're looking at what this technology is going to do, we don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, technologically, it is not. This is a transformative change.
But sinking billions of dollars and being like, this is where it's going to go. It's like saying, I'm going to sink billions of dollars into Betamax or Laserdisc.
Yeah, you put radio on the internet.
That BHIS Betamax Laserdisc argument that happened back in the 80s. And now have people putting $500 billion on Betamax. Like, that's where the bubble is going to be coming from. Is you're going to
there's the T-shirt and the bumper sticker right there.
So, and the wild part is you don't have to wait 4 years to find out whether your investment was good or bad. You get to find out in 2 months. 2 months. Right? That's that's the wildest part to me personally. It's just how fast.
All right, let's talk about some normal hacking stories. There's some fun ones we can just quick fire through.
I've got a DDoS story that I think is kind of interesting. Apparently
there's multiple DDoS stories.
Apparently this company DeepSeek is currently facing a large-scale cyber attack.
Yes,
resulting new user registration.
Yes, so this is what I was talking about, right? So I mentioned this. So this company DeepSeek that published this model that we've been talking about, they've also have like a ChatGPT instance of it, and it got smashed. Now, whether this is intentional, if it's just a bunch of kids that can't get on TikTok getting excited about it, we don't know. But it's being attacked, and they have new user registrations disabled. So essentially, it actually is pretty funny. Look at the criteria. Zoom in a little bit on the picture. It says only log in via email, Google, or +86 phone number, which is China mainland, is supported in your region. So like, I don't know. Basically, yeah. You can see the writing on the wall there. This is obviously, they've already open sourced the stuff, but you have to have big hardware to really use it.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, there's another DDoS. But yeah.
So switching out, like I agree with Corey. We got to move on. We've got other stories.
John, where you want to move?
I just
I don't
posted
know
it
if
in
this is the
chat.
right
We talked
move.
about Department of Homeland Security.
I don't know
Department
if
of
we should
Homeland
bring this
Security
up.
Cyber Review Board is cleaned out in Trump's move to eliminate misuse of resources. This impacts CISA. This impacts the research for Salt
Cybersecurity
Typhoon.
Review Board.
And like, oh God, some of this stuff is going to be so hard to tiptoe around. But when we're looking at kind of like, I agree with the idea, like, hey, the government should be more efficient. I do agree with that. But like this review board and like what they're funding with CISA and looking at cyber attacks and understanding cyber attacks and getting in front of cyber attacks and sharing information, like we kind of need that in the industry. And there's a bunch of research into cyber attacks that have happened over the past year that the investigations are done. Like just lock up the door and move on. And part of me is like, a lot of the businesses that were kind of behind this move that were pushing politically in the back end, they're like, we don't need the government. We don't need the government to tell us what we did wrong. We will self-regulate. And I honestly, this is tied to the AI stuff and everything. It's like, when has these companies doing self-regulation ever worked well? And I'm hoping that it's just a temporary thing and like the funding and stuff comes back. But like you're looking at some of the investigations like Salt Typhoon. What's the healthcare company that was compromised? It's 190 million records.
Well, see, John, it's fine
United
because they
Health.
said
UnitedHealth,
they
thanks.
think they removed the hackers, so it's fine.
It's fine.
They said we think the hackers are gone. It's fine.
I don't want to sound cynical, but like all the stories we're talking about in our industry, I kind of see all of this as an absolute win if I'm being completely cynical, right? If it's just about money for computer security, right? If you're removing the agency that's supposed to teach us how to get better and like protect ourselves against, there's just going to be more cyber attacks. And if we're looking at like the AI stuff, like now all of a sudden AI is scattered to the winds and anybody can do it at this point. Anybody with $150,000, $160,000 can pull it off. It's just like, that's good for our industry. Like, I guess there's a great quote, and I think that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is chaos as a ladder. And if we're looking at offensive security, we're looking at just general security, there's a lot of chaos out there right now.
Well, so John, here's my take on this. The government is the thing that ties people's value in their own data and companies together, because companies will just get breached all day, every day and not give a crap, and it'll have no effect on their bottom line. And there's no money coming back to the cybersecurity industry because they're just paying ransoms and moving on. Right. Like that it's great for the criminal industry, but like the problem is the government is the thing that says you're not allowed to get breached. If the government doesn't say you're not allowed to get breached, they'll just be like, well, getting breached is just part of our bottom line. It's called breakage, and it's there in the P&Ls right there. Ransomware, $50 million a year. We just pay for that. All the people's data that gets leaked, we're not too worried about it. Like, I don't know, that's the cynical side of things that I look at. I'm like, the government is the ones that make it illegal or wrong to get breached. If they decide it's fine, they're just going to be like, oh, well, we just get breached every year, like T-Mobile style. It's fine.
Yeah, I think even like, didn't PayPal get to pay some like paltry sum for their breaches to where it's like, oh, well, the fine is less than what it would cost to remedy the situation.
I mean, that's how I see it. But arguably the government are the ones that are like, you can't get breached. Like that's kind of it's a state of mind, right?
It is a state of mind. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of not getting breached, I really want to talk about the UnitedHealthcare breach because it is so effing crazy. So what is it? 190 million records. And it was a subsidiary of UnitedHealth that was actually compromised. But of course, they were they were part of UnitedHealth. So when you're looking at this particular case, like UnitedHealth paid the ransom, but what's interesting is the actual people that did the ransom never got paid out. So you have this weird scenario where Group A hacks United Healthcare, and then Group B is basically who is kind of the front for this attack. And I think it was Alf V or Black Cat. I can't remember. But once they got I think it was $22 million, they never paid the actual hackers that got the actual data. And then the hackers went back and then re-ransomed United Healthcare and got a second ransom out of them. Which, you're kind of getting into that honor amongst thieves type situation. But this is just like United Healthcare, like that's a significant amount of money. And I think they talked about the total hit was like 1.6.
Yeah, 2.9. But is this really a significant hit for them percentage wise? When you go,
yes,
okay,
but only because it was ransomware. Only because it was ransomware. If it was any other kind of cybersecurity incident, it would have no impact. Like it only matters. Like this basically, the problem, to expand on John's previous thing, like this basically means like the only kind of threat we're trying to defend against is one that impacts our ability to operate. If it's just data being leaked, we don't really care because there's no fines, there's no whatever. It's only if our systems go down, then the numbers start to get big really fast, which is what happened to Change Healthcare. They were down for, they couldn't process claims. They couldn't do anything for like, was it 2 months? It was a long time. So like that was why they had this huge $1 billion impact. If it was just data leakage of 190 million people, that would be like, that's free. That's already happened multiple times. Yeah. So like that, it's kind of crazy to think about, but that number is huge because it was ransomware. But if it wasn't ransomware and it was just like extortion or that kind of thing, they'd be like, whatever. You already have the data. It's fine.
So I did want to ask you all, like I just shared another link, the Bleeping Computer article that was talking about the payment of the ransomware. So it was Black Cat was behind the attack. They stole the credentials. They got 6 terabytes of data as well. United Healthcare Group confirmed it paid the ransom, got the decryptor, prevent the attackers from publicly leaking the data. They paid allegedly $22 million. According to the Black Cat ransomware affiliate who actually conducted the actual attack. The ransom payment was supposed to be split between the affiliate and the ransomware operators, but Black Cat suddenly shut down and kept the entire ransom for themselves. And there's a great screenshot. If you scroll down, it's right there. If we can kind of zoom in on that, where they talk about, what they gained access to, how they weren't paid. And then they say, this is where it gets worse for United Health. The threat actor behind the actual attack said they did not get the data. They did not get paid the way that they were supposed to.
This is hacker tears.
Yeah, hacker tears. And then they literally went back and re-ransomed United Healthcare again. Absolutely just brutal attack for them. Basically like, hey, you should pay the ransom. They pay the ransom. The people that took the ransom are like, well, we're not going to pay the people that did the hack. That's a lot of money. See ya, out. And then they got ransom again.
Yeah. Well, this is exact. Like people are going to jump on this and say, well, this is why you don't pay the ransom, right? But this is the whole no honor among thieves thing. You basically have to accept these risks if you're considering paying. I will say they chose this. It's basically a one-time exit, right? Like now, no one is going to work with this affiliate group. No one's going to work. I do think Alfie actually is like shut down. Like I think they formally said like, we're done. But yeah, I mean, this basically is their one-time exit from being this ransomware affiliate. The affiliate program works. They have like, it has to work on trust. Ironically, criminal enterprise works on trust. The people who are actually doing the hacking have to trust the affiliate to give them their fair share and to communicate with the people and get the payout. So now this ransomware group is dead, right? Like the Alfie name is dead because no one will ever trust it after they just, said bye-bye. But yeah, I mean, the hackers behind it are probably alive and well and continuing. They'll probably switch to another affiliate program. There's like 1,000 of them. So yeah, it's a weird situation.
Yeah, middlemen.
Well,
goddamn bureaucrats.
It's sort of like
Swear jar.
Everybody has a price, right?
Ugh.
They found that
No.
price. They're like, okay, we're out.
Yeah, it's
we'll take
I
it.
tell this.
We're out.
Yeah, it's the same thing we say in hacking. It's like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna take, you better take enough to live in a non-extradition country for the rest of your life. Right?
22 million is a good start. 22 million is a good start to that. Yeah, reputation is everything.
So let's run through a couple of fun little hack articles. So there was a issue with Cloudflare, which it's not really an issue, but it is kind of a unique way of using CDN to kind of take advantage of a user's geolocation. So this is essentially an article posted. Security researcher figured out if you send someone an image on Discord or other chats, then you can check essentially what region of Cloudflare cached that image. And then depending on that, it'll tell you roughly where that user is based. So it's just kind of a fun little functionality thing, not really a vulnerability, but it would give you, if someone's like, oh, I live in China, and then you send them this, and it's like New York City or whatever. Obviously, VPNs are at play. So like it's not really that big of a deal. But I did think it's kind of funny to be like, it's basically like a mini docs. It's like, you don't live in China. You just hit this from New York City, like, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of a funny little idiosyncrasy of how clouds and CDNs work. The Subaru hack was pretty interesting. Did anyone see that?
Did they donate all the money to dogs?
So no, but they probably should have. So this is an interesting kind of a something that's like shouldn't have been a thing, but was a thing. Basically security researchers, as they do, they took the Subaru app and they took it apart and they found an API call that essentially lets you take over someone's Subaru account. And then you can become like an authorized user of their account, which means you can like track their location, you can unlock their doors, like do all kinds of whatever control is enabled in this app. The security researcher did disclose it to Subaru and they fixed it in like a very short time. It was like the next day they fixed it.
Which is awesome. Hats off to Subaru for that.
Which is awesome, but it is terrifying that like it's, at least from my perspective, and anyone who's done like an API or app pen test reading this, you're going to be like, which by the way, it's really well written. Kudos to Sam Curry for the write-up on this.
Very nice write-up. Yeah.
It's like, it's seriously like the most basic, like you could use this as a how to hack an API like class. Like it's so like literally if you watch the video, it is so transparent. It literally looks like something we would put in a pen test report. It's like they take decompile or not decompile, but monitor the traffic coming out of the app, find an API endpoint, realize that there's this issue with the API endpoint, send a repeater request, take over the account, get the email that says you've been added as an authorized user, then log in to the app, done. Like it's like a minute video that just
was this like an off? Obviously, it was an off bypass. I didn't read the article, so I mean, enlighten me what the exact like little thing was that they did. What they just weren't checking to see if you were the authorized users if you hit this URL.
So I guess like the problem is that the password reset function would just function without without confirmation. So like it's a classic, like I don't know the exact API term for it, but it's basically like the API, the two components aren't talking to each other. It's like, well, hopefully they have a token, but then like the code doesn't actually check if the token is valid. Well, it's like, oh yeah, I reset the password, right?
So like on the password reset. So typically, I if you were rolling this out, right, there would be some kind of token in the URI to say, hey, this is a valid request that was sent in and was checked. Like this token was sent in the email, so that proves that you are the only person to receive that email, right? But what I guess you're saying is that they could have put anything in that token. It didn't matter as long as they just said which email they were trying to.
You just skip that step. Yeah. You skip the confirming the token. You're like, I already got the token. Now reset the password, right?
Yeah, I got you.
But here's like basically you need to have the victim's last name, zip code, email address, phone number, or the license plate. And
it's
then
any or. That's an or.
Any or.
So if you have their last name, their zip code, which isn't hard, like
that's so easy to get.
I was gonna say those are probably API calls too, right?
You said license plate. You could just drive around and just find Subarus right there.
But here's what you can do if you have that: start, stop, lock, unlock, retrieve the current location, retrieve the location history for the past year within 5 meters.
This is a carjacker.
Query and retrieve the personally identifiable information for any customer, including their emergency contacts, authorized user, physical address, billing information.
So nothing, no impact.
No impact.
Last
just
four of the
kidding.
credit card. Access, what is it? Miscellaneous user data, including support call history, previous owners or dominant readings, and sales history. Like, wow.
That's pretty bad. I
Like
mean,
you
it's a
said, this is
stalker's
great
dream.
write-up.
It
If you
is
wanna
a
get into
stalker's
hacking
dream.
APIs, boys and girls, go check out this article. Like,
Yeah, I also really like the paragraph of like bypassing 2FA, to where they just go, we thought of this, we did try the simplest thing we could think of, removing the client side overlay from the UI.
and it worked.
Like,
Oh my god, that was
Yeah,
their
I'm like,
two-factor
what?
auth?
Yeah, you can do
They're
this with
literally-
the
their whole
yeah.
authentication model was a modal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you
Yep.
could. Yeah, again, it's like it's nothing new. If you're an API tester, you're going to be like, yeah, I did this on the last 6 pen tests. But it is concerning to see that Subaru didn't get a pen test on this, before, or at least not a very good one.
I got to be honest,
before
this
they
is
went
one of
live.
those things that I dove into our history, and I'm like, did we pen test this app? Like,
No, we would have found this, dude. We would have found this.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
That count. Does that
another
count? I think that counts.
another $15.
Ralph, you are expensive to have on the podcast.
Sorry,
Okay,
I'm
it's
sorry.
worth it.
I'm gonna reflect for a moment and realize that I can't swear.
Damn it, Ralph.
okay.
Oh, damn it.
That's at least 2. That's at least 2. So keeping on with the quick hits. The quick hits we're
By the
doing.
way, we're keeping this going for all of 2025. And like for all of our news segments, and I will write one big check to the EFF at the end. Like, and I
We've got to
literally
be
want
over
it to be a
$100
large
by
check.
now.
Like I want it to be one of those ridiculously large checks. And I'll go to
John,
the
I have bad
headquarters.
news. The large check cost $1,000, and you're
That's fine. It's worth it. But we'll take it there and we'll hand it to
They're
them.
like, can we
Yeah.
have a small one for? More?
So real quick, last quick little story, because this is terrifying and just dumb. But basically, this is the story about the European power grid, Ryan. The
This
Ars
is the
Technica
story of
article.
the European power grid.
Yeah.
Got
So
river and
basically,
power.
this is like a hacker story, similar to the API thing. Like your friend just happens to have a Subaru, and you just happen to poke with the app. This is 2 security researchers, I believe, or maybe more, who are living in Berlin and are like just looking at RF signals. Which, if you've ever been a hacker, you've probably done this. You just fire up your SDR and you kind of hang out and you look at what's going on. And they realized, it's funny, it actually says in the article, they noticed antennas on light poles and were like, what do those do? Classic hackers. So basically, they figured out that there was unencrypted communications for like almost all of Central Europe's power grid that's essentially used for like shedding load. And essentially, they just they captured some of the RF signals and then replayed them and realized, oh, so this just shuts off some stuff on the power grid. So it's kind of an OT SCADA type of story, but essentially like this is a legacy thing where you can just capture these requests. There's no authentication at all with the request, and there's no encryption either. So it's like UDP for power grid management, which this isn't super this isn't like rare. A lot of OT and SCADA stuff has no encryption, no authentication. It's just an afterthought. But it is weird that it's being used in power grids to actually actively turn on and off different relays and things.
Yeah, we're just going to see another reason for people to ban flipper zeros.
Yes,
I know, right? It's like
'Cause
Central
that's the
Europe is
solution.
Yeah. Central Europe is now banning flippers because that's going to solve it. Just like banning GPUs to China will fix all the AI problems.
Problem solved.
Oh, man. We've
If
come
you back them in a corner, they might find a way out. That's all I'm saying.
Full circle. Hey, to close things out, do you guys want to take a guess on what is the value of Nvidia losing 17% of its value? Like what the real dollar amount is?
Like 100 billion?
More than we'll
We
ever
need
see in
more.
our whole lives.
Well, weren't they the first? Well, not first. They were. It was a trillion, right?
No,
Is it like a
500.
number
They
that
were
I
the
can
first.
say
They were
that-
no. Apple was the first trillion, and that was like at least 3 years ago.
Well, no, I know, but I think Nvidia was over a trillion. So that's
Yes, Nvidia. Yes, they were.
589 billion.
So literally, the price drop could have built that other building.
Could have built it. Could have built the building. It also could have solved hunger in America. Could have afforded to basically educate every American child all the way through a doctorate program. We could have gone back to the moon probably 2-3 times.
Oh, we're
with that.
going back either way, but that's
Could have
irrelevant.
funded
For
health.
100 Cougar runs. Diplomatic immunity. That's deep cut. All right. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We will see you all next week. Be sure to check out
Bye,
our
y'all.
webcasts this week. We also have Mile High Hackin' Fest in Denver, Colorado. We are coming to your city. So please check it out if you're in the Denver metro area. And if you can't attend locally, we'll also be doing it virtually and you can register there. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next week.